Hello folks, it's Brennan illustrating for Gina K Designs. I've got a brand new stamp set to show you. It's called Cottage Garden and it's a scene builder set with a sort of a vintage flair to it. Hope you like it. It's a large stamp set featuring 29 different stamps, and the two main stamps are the Cottage and the Garden Gate, which you can either combine or use independently, and I'm going to show you how to do that. In this video we're going to make this card, and we're going to start by cutting out two masks. One of the cottage and one of the top of the birdhouse, and that's the only masks you'll need. We're using the cottage stamp, the gate stamp, the two trees and the hedgerow stamp. So I'm going to stamp the images onto a piece of cardstock that's larger than I need it to be. I will trim it to size later on. I'll start with the garden gate image and then I'll follow up with the cottage after that. I'll pop the cottage on just a little bit above the garden gate and slightly over to the right hand side. I then put the mask on top of the cottage that I've just stamped, and then I can go ahead and stamp in some trees and hedges on either side of the cottage. The larger tree and the hedges are done with the second impression of the inked stamp, so I'll stamp them off on a bit of scratch paper first. The middle-sized tree was stamped in full strength ink, and it brings it slightly more forward and gives a bit of depth to the greenery around the house. With the mask still on the cottage, you can go in and sponge a sky, and I wanted to create a nice warm summer evening sky, so I'm using Innocent Pink from Gina K and I think Wild Dandelion inks as well. These are the Copic markers that I used. If you want to note them, just pause this section. This speeded up segment shows how I colour in. I'm a very lazy colourer, so I tend to do maybe all my yellows at the same time, all my pinks at the same time. I think it saves a wee bit of time. You can just see off to the right hand side there, I've got a spare piece of paper on which I've stamped the same image that I'm colouring, and I use that for practice just to test out colours. Very handy thing to do. You don't need to use good cardstock, just a spare piece of paper will do for that. Although this is quite a detailed image, I have got into the habit of leaving the fence white, which really cuts down on colouring time. It really didn't take very long at all to finish this little illustration off. And the other thing I don't do a lot of shading on this image either. Just enough to give the appearance of 3D, but I don't need it to be a masterpiece. I think the details work for themselves in this image. This set has a sort of a vintage flair about it, and the typography for the sentiments is quite 40s inspired, I think. I like the fine lettering. I think it works well with the pictures. Once I'm finished colouring the image, I use my homemade viewfinder and mark each corner, and then I can cut out the card front, and I'll use a quilting ruler and a rotary cutter for that. I just find them so handy. You can see right through, measure exactly what width and height that you want and cut them quite safely. The rulers are very sturdy. I'll cut my image just a tiny little bit short at the top, maybe about 1/8 of an inch, because I want the card front to show in a little band across the top, and the card I'm using is Jelly Bean Green from Gina K Designs cardstock. Really great colour for this image. And that's it. And I hope this video reassures you that this is actually a really simple stamp set to use. Don't be put off by how complicated the imagery looks. It's actually really simple to create. I look forward to doing more videos for this set in the next few days. Thanks now, bye.